Hey everybody, it's good to see you guys via video. This is Dr. Royer. You've had an opportunity to work with John Wieringo on all your assessments. Most of you should have one of these, which has your precision, power, focus, all your results. We're really excited to have all this data, and thanks for taking the time to participate in it. And what we want to do next is, now that we have some numbers from your assessment, we want to move forward with really trying to push you into doing some of the work in the Inner Armor program and doing the training, not just assess it, but doing the training. So I have a special guest and a good friend with me today, Dr. Ryan Bentley. Can you kind of introduce yourself to the medical students and kind of give a little of your background?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit of a different hybrid here. Started off my career going into medicine and then had a back injury playing football in college, and ultimately ended up going into chiropractic first, only to find myself 8 years later going back to school, and at the ripe age of 36 and went back to medical school and did my MD and PhD. So I do have 3 doctorates, but really it's not about it's going through all that was really to how can I help people better. Right now, it's the best time between the technological revolution and the biological revolution meeting. It's the most exciting time to be in medicine. So I was like, I'm all in. So, here I am. I've got 3 kids. I'm going back to school. And, my wife and I and kids, we made it work. And so here I am, 10 years later. Now I have a pretty integrative practice where we see everything from professional athletes to newborn babies, all the way to people with stage 4 cancers, to people that are wanting to stay healthy and well and have years of good health span, not just longevity, because longevity, you can have a good long life but not live well and feel pretty miserable. So we try to help find people where they are and meet them where they are and help them turn that needle towards health and wellness as we continue to age, because we can't anti-age. We're all going to age, and none of us are getting out of here alive.
We introduced the Inner Armor program to you about a year ago. Can you tell us a little bit about what your experience has been with the Inner Armor program and why Inner Armor might be important to you?
Yeah, so interesting, because I always think about the body on a physical, chemical, emotional level, and how does the body regulate, and it's all connected. We can't separate the two. You can't and let's just take the analogy or the idea of the fact that most people that drive have sped over the speed limit at some point in their life.
Not me.
Right, never, never. And so with that process, and you're going down the highway, you see a cop car on the other side of the road, and all of a sudden you see the lights turn on in your rearview mirror, and you know that you're speeding. So all of a sudden you get that thought of fear. That fear created a chemical change down to your adrenal glands that released epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, and now all of a sudden your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, your muscles tense up, you get that pit in your stomach. You're not sick.
Yeah.
Your body had a thought of fear. That, and it says multiple times, fear not, but that fear allows our body to create a chemical change that led into physical manifestations.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm always looking at the body from a standpoint of how can we help regulate these things and not go into that fear-driven type process. The fear-driven process of our body and our thoughts and emotions and how it all connects. When I met you, it was like, oh my gosh, this is like the missing piece. Like, really good from my chiropractic aspect and sports medicine, really understanding the musculoskeletal type aspect of it, but also how does that translate from biochemical imbalances, whether it's hemochromatosis or rheumatoid arthritis and all these different things. And then the chemical aspect, but it was the brain that I was like, how do we, it's not just, people aren't depressed because they have a Zoloft deficiency. Can these medications be helpful in a pinch? Yes, but long term, how do you handle the PTSD? How do you handle those stressors that get wired? And just like if someone physically picks up a baseball bat and swings it for 10,000 hours, they're going to have this muscle memory in their body. And I think about the neurological pathways. When someone's chronically stressed, you start rewiring your body, and you rewire these processes. And so when I was approached and to meet you, and then had the ability to look at Inner Armor, I mean, it was like, to me, it was like, oh my gosh, finally, it's like the missing link for me.
Yeah.
And so now I'm able to help my body and also help patients on a physical, chemical, emotional level and how to regulate that. So when I look at Inner Armor and what it is to me, it gives me, we have this internal regulating system, our autonomic nervous system, our fight or flight or parasympathetic rest and digest type system. But if you are constantly in this state of stress, your body is chronically grinding, right?
Yeah.
And you don't get that relaxation. So you're eating on the run, you're driving to work and going into the hospital and eating on the way. And then you might be able to get a break in the middle of the day after you're doing rounds and all these different things. So you're constantly in this fight or flight response. Oh, we have a code over here. And then so you go run down there. And so your body never gets that relaxation. And so med school, residency, it's all hard. You know, it's stressful. It's assimilating vast amounts of knowledge. It's taking that knowledge and translating that into patient care. And then it's taking time away from your loved ones and your social reprieve that we get of being able to relax and care for ourselves. You might get a break in 17 days, you know, where you've been on, you know, working 80 hours a week and those types of things. So how do you regulate that? And that's what Inner Armor has done for me, is be able to help train my body in a way that I can stay focused and calm in acute emergent situations instead of honestly just freaking out. You know, oftentimes I'll see med students, you know, I still work with med students and teach at Western Michigan School of Medicine. And so they come to my office and I work with them. And you know, a lot of times when they're doing rounds in the hospital, they'll get asked a question in front of everybody. And all of a sudden it's the deer in headlights look. And where in here, it's like, okay, I'm going to ask you this question. I'm not grilling you to, I said, I am trying to learn your knowledge so I know what I can teach you.
Yeah.
So just be calm. Remember everything that you learned about the basics. And don't forget this, guys, that everybody's going to say after your second year, forget everything you just learned because now it's all clinical. No, you master the basics, you seldom need anything else. It's all about understanding the basics of your body and how it functions, and then it allows you to troubleshoot your way through anything clinical. So clinical is just applying that basic science and that basic knowledge all the way down to the level of the cell. That's why we study and train for 30,000 hours. You know, that's a huge difference in, you know, getting 1,000 hours of training. It's really understanding at the level and depth, because you have to understand the medications, how they work, how they don't work, what are the side effects, what are the potential benefits, what are the potential adverse reactions that you can have with another medication or even a supplement. So it's, you just think about those things, it's a lot. And as you're taking a patient history, how do you keep your brain calm and be able to listen, assimilate that knowledge, translate that into your physical exam findings, and create a good, effective, personalized and predictive protocol for the patient to heal? And you can't do that if your brain is in this constant state of stress. You have to be in this relaxed state in order to have clarity of mind. Because if you're getting chased by a bear, immediately you become very hyper-focused and you're only focusing on one little thing and you can't think clearly on everything else. But again, you have to, because again, our body is connected. You know, the physical, chemical, emotional, and you think about all these pathways, you can't just focus in on one thing and just narrow in. Now, okay, someone's coding, you're going to do CPR. That's the only real thing that you're focusing on. But at the same time, you know, okay, let's push epinephrine, or, you know, what did we do? Do we amiodarone? Do we need to, you know, do we need to do cardioversion? What are we doing here? And you have to stay calm in those situations when you're running a code. And so that's where you typically have the most calm person that's walking in that is going to be, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to take care of this. And they are just making sure all the people, because again, it's teamwork. You can't do it as an individual. My office, I am blessed with an amazing team, but at the same time, I have to be a leader and be able to recognize when they're in a position they're not comfortable with. How do we back that off, put them into a position for them to succeed, and for them to feel comfortable as we get to help and serve people on a daily basis. So the Inner Armor in doing this, you have to make it part of your routine. Because again, your routine is stressful. It is all stress. And if you don't break that habit and take time to control it, I mean, 8 minutes a day is what it takes really to run through this and graduate as you go. And it's interesting because, and you have to fiddle with it a little bit because you have to learn your body. If I'm slouching and I'm just not paying attention, I'm not focused, I'm not really training anything. It's like going in there and, all right, well, whether I'm shooting 3-pointers or I'm trying to master swinging a baseball bat, if I just kind of go in there haphazardly, you got to go in there sharp and ready to learn from my body. And this gives me that biofeedback with the precision, power, and focus. It gives me that biofeedback so I can learn to regulate my body and know what it feels like when my body's starting to get out of rhythm, because I want to maintain that balance.
Yeah, awesome. So we got people that are younger than both you and I. They're in the throes of all of this stuff, and they probably feel like that they just don't have time to get the 8 minutes in. How would you help maybe reframe that a little bit for this group in looking at working inner armor into their life from a bigger perspective?
I would look at it from a standpoint of it's only going to help you. It's going to help you be able to stay calm.
Yeah.
Okay, they ask you that question on rounds. Everybody's looking at you. You got all the residents. Everybody's there. And then all of a sudden your heart rate's picking up. And how do you calm that so you can think clearly and think through that and methodically and even get to the point that you don't have that rush and that feeling when you're called that question in the very beginning, that you're calm and cool and collected and you can answer it. So, but that takes practice and that takes getting there. And so to do that, we all have routines. We brush our teeth in the morning. We put our socks on. You don't walk out without your pants on. So to me, this is putting the pants on for your brain. Because again, your brain is going to help regulate everything down. And that's going to be your autonomic nervous system. And you're going to be in that fight or flight response, or you're going to be in this calm setting so you can stay focused and be able to zoom in and zoom out. So you could be at a 30,000 foot view to be able to look at everything, and then you narrow in. If you're in this fight or flight response, you're very hyper focused. You're getting chased by the bear. The body doesn't know if it's physical stress, chemical stress, or emotional stress. Your hormones that are the stress hormones that are released, it still thinks it's getting chased by a bear. So you become this very hyper focused because you're looking at one path. I'm trying to survive. I'm going from here. This is why, the digestion shuts down. This is why, you're not going to stop and have intimacy or anything when you're getting chased by a bear, because you're going to be that bear's meal. You're not going to have a picnic. That's why the digestion shuts down. It's trying to keep you alive, and you're in this survival mode. So inner armor, going through med school and then going into residency, is just a huge tool that's going to help you have better quality of life and better ability to be able to assimilate knowledge. Because again, if you're super stressed and you're sitting there, you're like, okay, I got to learn this stuff. You're not going to remember it. You're not going to retain it because you're not taking that 30,000 foot view and making connections and to create memory and really make it lasting memories of assimilating this knowledge. It's not just studying for a multiple choice test. It's understanding the knowledge. And when you understand that knowledge, it allows you to take that 30,000 foot view. How is everything connected? Everything from the symptoms to the physiology. Why is that happening? Why is it translating into what the patient's feeling? When I give this, it does this. And understanding that, and it creates a movie in your mind. And so you have to use your right brain, which is your creative brain, and your left brain, which is more of the hard facts. And you have to merge the two to make those lasting memories for the rest of your life, and not just, okay, I need to know this and factoid test questions. We all know that the tests now are like the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's like you're going through the vignette and you're like, oh, I know this one. Oh, it's going to be this medication or it's this diagnosis. And that's not what they ask you. They ask you, if you give the appropriate medication for the diagnosis that you already think it is, what is the potential adverse effect if you also have this medication that they would want to take? Or what enzyme process is it going through down the liver pathway? That's how they do it. I mean, so you have to have all these steps in place. And so inner armor is only going to equip you to be able to better study better, to be able to have more of a relaxation time. I remember getting out. I would go on a vacation on my guys' trip, and they're like, bro, you need to relax. And I didn't know how to do that. Yeah. And now it's like, I go home, I shut down. It's like, I'm done with the day. Nice. I don't open up my computer. I have my family time. It helps me keep a balance. But ultimately, what does that mean? It translates into me having my break, which means that I'm always thinking, because I love learning, I love studying, and love helping people. But at the same time, I have to recoup. So what does that translate into? Less burnout.
Yeah.
If you guys don't do this early and create these habits, it's going to create a burnout, and then you're going to be feeling miserable. And I'm going to be real. I was in residency. I was chief resident, and with 6 months left, I wanted to quit. So they gave me the option, like, don't. I was like, has anybody ever quit with 6 months left? They said, honestly, yes, we've had one person. And they're like, what's going on? And in all honesty, it was painful for me to see the social inequities and the disparities of people, and just all out discrimination that happens when you start to become calloused as a physician. And I stepped into this as an adult being aware of that, and I knew I did not want to be part of that, but I started feeling that aspect when I would see someone repeatedly into the emergency department, either really faking 10 out of 10 pain because they don't have the money to get their street drugs that they're on. And I can see where that comes in, but then you actually have the real person that is really suffering. And, you know, I wanted to take that opportunity and not cast judgment on them. And so it was breaking my heart that all of a sudden, after 2.5 years of this, that I'm starting to feel these feelings and understand how some of these physicians could become calloused. And so to me, I wanted to make sure that my heart was in check, that I looked at everybody as an opportunity to help them turn their life around no matter where they were. And
Awesome.
so it was really, that was tough. And it really took self-reflection. But if I was in this constant fight or flight response, which was starting to get there, I was at my threshold. And that's the reality. As med students, as residents, as physicians, as people, we all have this threshold of stress that we can handle. And it's, you add on there, let's say you have all these emotional stressors going on. Well, now your threshold, your delta is right here. And now you add in biochemical imbalances because you're eating trash every day. You're not fueling your body with the vitamins, minerals, proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and water, and breathing properly to get the oxygenation into your cells for your body to thrive. So now your threshold's here. And then all of a sudden, now you throw in there back pain or sciatica. And now it doesn't take anything to push you over that edge where you might just fly off the handle or say something in a way that is not of your character. And so it's all about how do we reduce that threshold from, you know, being here to removing that physical stress, removing that emotional stress, removing that biochemical stressors, and giving you more of this delta so you can handle the changes and the swings throughout the day. And that's ultimately what Inner Armor does from the precision, power, and focus, is it gives you that ability to withstand. It gives you better resiliency. And not just resiliency, also the robustness, which means how hard can you keep getting hit and keep going, you know? And I think that's actually in a Rocky song or a Rocky movie, you know? How hard can you get hit and get up and get back up and keep going? And that's your robustness, you know, that it doesn't hit you. Your resiliency is your body's ability to rebound and get back to that. And so it's only helping your body to be able to, because we're all going to have stressors, so your level is going to go like this throughout your day. But then your resiliency is going to help you bring it back down here. And that's what this does. It helps you control that to bring you down to this baseline. So again, you can handle that swing the next day. Because if you're not recovering, you're going to stay throttled right here. You're going to lose sleep. If you don't get sleep, you don't have your lymphatics working in your brain. Then you can't get into your REM sleep and your deep sleep. And then that just messes your next day. And it just keeps going. But can you work night shift and do that for a week and then have a day break and you switch back to daytime? Absolutely, you can do those things, but it's rough on you and you just keep going until you're like right there and you're redlining. Or the people that get burned out, they're right there.
They're over time.
And I over time got here. And now, again, what this has allowed me to do, because our practice is pretty intense, every patient encounter is completely different. Like I said, it could be the beauty of a brand new baby coming in with their parents to a patient that was just diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I had, and it's a privilege and honor to serve, but had the hard conversation the other day with someone that has now pancreatic cancer, and a patient that I'm very, very close with. And those are tough conversations to have, but it's being able to be equipped to handle that, stay objective, but yet be emotionally vulnerable for someone that's on the opposite receiving end of that. Not just you're this calloused physician. Well, you got pancreatic cancer. You got about 3 months to live. All right, well, there's really nothing else to do and go make your plans. No, it's connecting with the people and being empathetic and sympathetic and however you can relate to them and having a heart and compassion in that moment, but then be able to pick up and walk into the next room for someone that you think might be having a heart attack.
Yeah.
Or walking into someone that's bringing a new joyful baby. How do you switch gears like that? This allows you that ability to do that.
Let's finish this one thing. This has been fantastic, man. Everybody needs to hear this. This is great. Anything over the last few months where you were in a situation or something where you used some of the techniques from Inner Armor to help you navigate that, maybe in a way that you were more present, less anxious, able to manage that, and you said, "Oh yeah, that's my Inner Armor coming out."
Yeah. So that's great. So a number of instances.
Oh really? Okay.
So I've never been a golfer because again, going back to school at the age of 36, I'm now 48. Going back to school at 36. One of my buddies would ask me to go on these guys' trips. I had to put a pause for 10 years of my life. And
Yeah.
so now my kids are older. They're 21, 20, and 18. And now they like to go golfing. And so they asked me, well, I'm like, well, now I can dedicate 4 hours because I'm spending time with them.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was time away from them. And I didn't want any other time. It was with my family. That's my love. That's my circle. That's my reprieve. That's what I enjoy, and is being with them. And so everything from golfing, when I'm starting to my heart rate starts to go up, and I'm like, okay, this whole game, it's a mind game anyway. So if I'm tense, I'm not flowing through. I'm not in that flow. And so I would do my breathing exercises and take a nice deep breath and close my eyes and get myself into a state of relaxation. And I could feel my heart rate when it got to that calm spot and I didn't feel it thumping, that I was like, okay. And then I just stay focused and do my swing, and boom, it would go. Where other times, if I don't try to regulate it, so I play with it because it's kind of fun, because now with the biofeedback that I got with the inner armor, it's allowed me to be able to recognize that. To the point also that if I have a situation with a patient that is going to, the phone call the other day, I was almost in tears because, again, my relationship is very deep and personal with this patient of ours, and she's been through so much, and we've been there every step along the way. And knowing that I had to make this phone call, I had to be in a state of giving facts, but at the same time being loving and caring and compassionate to them. And if I'm in a state of fight or flight, I'm not in awareness that I can respond to how they're responding to the information.
Yeah.
So staying calm in that situation, to working with we have a team of 11 people. And so sometimes there's, and that team takes interactions, and sometimes there's misunderstandings. And so how do you stay calm to be able to lead your team to a point that everybody is calm and focused? But if I'm not as a leader, I can't lead very well.
Yeah.
And so that's a key thing. And as physicians and physicians in training, you're a leader. You're leading people down a path of health to help them achieve the goals and aspirations they have. It's a huge responsibility, and it's a privilege to do what we do. But with that privilege comes responsibility, and we have to be diligent in how we handle that. And if we are this stressed out, calloused physician on the threat of burnout, and that patient comes into you, and you respond in a crass, rude way, and yeah, everybody, you can have a bad day, but you don't want to have those in those encounters. You're getting into this because you have this passion to help and love people, but if you get to the point that you're just doing a paycheck and you're miserable in your life and you feel like another cog in a wheel and being told what you can do with your patient and not being dictated by insurance companies, well, we're not going to cover that, so now you can't use the medication that you felt based off of your training in the art of medicine was the best option for them. Now you have to pivot, but how do you say, okay, well, I can't control that variable, but I can control my response. You can't control all situations, but you can always control your response. And this allows you to control your response in all situations, whether you're leading a team in your own private practice, you're leading a code team in the middle of the emergency department for someone that's passing away, and you got their loved ones all in frantics, and you can't look at them and say, calm down. Their loved one is dying on a table. Right. But how do you be like, I understand, ma'am, would you like to lead the room? Have someone else dictate and say, hey, can you help get them there? And be able to handle these stressful situations, because it comes in many, many different forms. And that's the key thing, is understanding that, that you have to be able to control. So on a daily basis, Tim, I use this. That's awesome. And I am grateful, because I would feel these things. Like I said, I was on the verge of burnout at, 6 months left of residency, serving as chief resident and leading the residents, handling the med students, working the hospital floor, working with the administrators, working at the higher level of the med school itself. Yeah. And sitting in on these board meetings, even in the hospital board meetings, and going into these situations. And I wish I had that, but for whatever reason in my life, I didn't have it at that point. But it helped me recognize that I knew internally something was there, and I was like, okay, I just need to take a breath, step back. But now when I had those feelings coming up, this has made me more self-aware, because again, you got that biofeedback telling me real time. Because again, we're all concrete thinkers, people. I mean, we like very black and white, this gives you that feedback to be able to recognize yourself. And what's interesting is I'm doing it in the morning, and I made it part of my routine. So as I'm doing it and I'm looking at my heart rate variability, I'm breathing, controlling my breath and everything, and just the smallest noise, whether it's my coffee machine just went off because one of my children turned it on,
Yeah.
that noise, you'll see my heart rate variability it become very small and, you know, drop down and my heart rate pick up. Or my dog comes in and jumps a paw onto me, so now someone's touching me, and that changes. So, and it's interesting because those are just subtleties, but it makes you more self-aware. And then again, that self-awareness is building up to your threshold. And then how do you bring that back down so you don't blow a gasket and,
Yeah.
you know, go into overdrive.
Awesome.
So.
This is great. And just watching you put the time and energy in the last year has been inspiring. So thank you for taking the time to encourage these guys.
So I wish you guys well. This is a fun career. It's the most exciting time in medicine, in my opinion. And I think you just look at it from a different lens, that every piece of nugget and information, I did not like microbiology. I did not. And now I'm kind of a microbe guru. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to that. But it's because I looked at things and said, I might not meet someone for 20 years, but this piece of knowledge, I'm learning it for a reason. And that knowledge may help someone's life 20 years down the line. So let me buck up, let me study this, let me learn this. Even biostats, you know, I wasn't a huge fan of biostats. Yeah, doing a PhD, I had a lot of statistics, so I was kind of burned out on it in reality. But now I can look at it and say, well, this study doesn't even make sense because they didn't even do the right type of analysis, or their power's not very strong, or this is a lot of assumptions. And so all of it adds up. There's a reason that you're doing everything, but you're not going to learn everything in med school. You learn in med school enough not to kill anybody and how to help people, but it's that continuous knowledge. We become lifelong learners, but you have to learn how to run your body because we are a machine. And you can either, it's like a car. You're not going to put Coca-Cola Classic down a gas tank to make the car run. It's made to run off of gasoline. So fuel your body well. And then not only fueling it, that's the chemical aspect, move. Our body was made to move. So getting your physical activity and working with your mind. It's literally physiologically impossible to have anxiety and a stress response mentally when you're in a state of gratitude. And so what I've actually learned is, even with using the inner armor, I will think about things. I'll put my hands over my heart. I'll be praying and being thankful for the things that I have in my life. And it always comes back to my family and my inner circle of people that are part of my life, including you. And you see my heart rate variability just change. And so there has been times that there was a patient encounter that I was like, I got to step outside for a minute. And I just had to collect myself, and I just put my hands over my heart, and I would take my deep breaths in using my diaphragm, not chest breathing like I just got done running, because that throws you into the wrong state. But I learned that from the inner armor. And then going into a state of gratitude so I could calm myself to be able to come to my team and say, okay, here's how we handle this situation.
That's awesome.
So guys, I can't tell you enough that this is important. It will help you, and it'll help you continue to create the life that you've envisioned. But again, you can't do that if you're in a state of fight or flight. You have to be able to control yourself and auto-regulate yourself, and that's what this helps you do.